They say highways keep secrets that only reveal themselves when night falls, when the headlights cut through the darkness and show what was never meant to be seen. Truckers, taxi drivers, and lonely travelers all share one thing in common. They've seen things that defy reason. Not just shadows on the road or tricks of the light, but things that follow them home. Things that whisper in the static of the radio long after the drive is over. Tonight you'll hear 3 real stories. Accounts from people who dared to travel roads where the darkness never ends. Some lived to tell their stories. Others didn't. And I'll warn you now. If you're listening to this while driving, keep your eyes on the road. Don't look in the mirror. Sometimes it looks back. It was just past midnight when German, a taxi driver with 12 years behind the wheel, picked up a passenger who would haunt him forever. The rain had been falling since dusk, and his windshield wipers struggled to keep up. He was about to end his shift when he saw her, standing under the dim light of a gas station sign on Route 23. She was young, maybe mid-20s, soaked from head to toe, dressed in a long white dress that clung to her like a second skin. Her hair was dripping, her lips pale, and her eyes empty. She didn't wave. She just stared. German slowed down, rolled down the window, and asked if she needed a ride. Her voice was almost drowned out by the rain. "Yes, just a few miles down," she said. "My house is up ahead." No address, no hesitation. Something about her made him uneasy, but he unlocked the door anyway. As the car rolled forward, the silence became heavier with each passing second. The rhythmic slap of rain against the roof was the only sound. German adjusted the mirror to glance at her, but she was sitting perfectly still, hands folded on her lap, staring out into the black woods. He tried small talk. "Rough night, huh?" She didn't answer. Only after a few miles did she finally speak. "My boyfriend left me here," she whispered. "We fought. He said he'd come back for me." Her voice trembled, barely audible. German nodded awkwardly. "I'm sure he will." But when he looked into the mirror again, his chest tightened. The seat behind him was empty. He blinked hard, turned around, and she was there again, her reflection appearing in the glass, though her body wasn't. Her face was pale as death, her eyes black voids. Slowly, she leaned forward until her cold breath touched his neck and said, "When you see him, tell him I'm still waiting." German screamed and slammed the brakes. The taxi skidded across the wet asphalt before coming to a stop. The back door opened on its own, and the smell of wet earth filled the car. She was gone. The seat was dry, as if no one had ever been there. Shaking, he drove straight to the nearest police station. The officer on duty listened without interrupting, then pulled out an old, water-stained photo from a folder. Was this her? German froze. It was the same woman. The officer sighed. She died 5 years ago on this road. Her boyfriend crashed the car into a ditch during a storm. He survived. She didn't. After that night, German quit driving night shifts. But sometimes when it rains and the headlights catch something white by the roadside, he swears he sees her again, watching, waiting for a ride she never finished. There's a stretch of highway in the north that truckers call Mile 66. They say it's cursed, a place where engines die, radios whisper names, and the wind carries screams that don't belong to the living. Raoul, a seasoned truck driver, thought it was just nonsense. He'd driven that route a dozen times and never saw anything strange. Until one cold night in November. He was hauling refrigerated cargo, meat bound for a city market, when his GPS marked the dreaded location, Mile 66. It was exactly 2:43 a.m. The road was empty for miles, and the air felt heavier, thicker, as if it was pressing against the windshield. The sky had no stars, only a faint orange glow from distant towns. Raoul hummed along with the radio when static cut through the signal, sharp and violent. He turned the knob, but all he heard was a faint whisper, "Pull over." He froze, staring at the radio. Then he laughed nervously. Must be interference. But then the lights flickered. The dashboard dimmed. The truck's massive engine started to sputter. The temperature gauge climbed, even though it was freezing outside. Up ahead, a faint yellow light flickered in the dark. A gas station, long abandoned, its sign half hanging by rusted bolts. Standing in front of it was a man wearing a filthy old uniform, holding a lantern that glowed with unnatural brightness. Raoul slowed down. The man waved for him to stop. Against his better judgment, Raoul pulled over. The man approached the driver's side window, smiling. His teeth were yellow, his skin slick with oil. "Need a refill?" he asked. The smell of gasoline and metal was suffocating. Raoul frowned. "You got any fuel here?" he asked. The man nodded and pointed toward the pumps, but when Raoul turned to look, the hoses were moving, coiling like snakes, and dripping something thick and dark. Not oil. Blood. Raoul jumped back, tripping on the step of his truck. The man laughed, a hollow, echoing sound that didn't seem to come from his mouth. His face began to distort, skin melting, merging with the black pavement beneath him. "No one stops anymore," he hissed, voice bubbling, "and I'm starving for the sound of engines." His body sank into the asphalt, his eyes glowing faintly beneath the cracks. Raoul scrambled into his truck and slammed the accelerator. He didn't care about the road, he just drove. The GPS still read mile 66, even after 20 minutes. When he finally saw city lights, the clock still said 2:43 a.m. Raoul quit long-haul trucking soon after. He never told his boss why, but sometimes late at night, he wakes up to the smell of gasoline and the faint hum of an engine idling outside his window. When he looks, there's nothing there. Only a single wet footprint on the road, leading back toward the highway. Laura was a rideshare driver trying to make ends meet. It was past 11 p.m., and she decided to take one last trip before heading home. The request came from a remote address in the hills outside the city. The map showed a single winding road, surrounded by forest. The further she drove, the weaker the signal became, until her phone displayed two words that made her stomach drop: no service. The road narrowed, lined with crooked trees that leaned toward the car like they wanted to whisper secrets. Her headlights cut through the fog, revealing only fragments of the path ahead. She reached the destination, a small clearing, and waited. Minutes passed. No one came. The app still said, "Waiting for passenger." She turned off the engine. Silence. No wind, no crickets, nothing. The air felt wrong, heavy with static. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw the back seat dip slightly, as if someone had just sat down. Laura froze. Slowly, she turned around. A man was sitting there. His clothes were clean but old-fashioned. Black suit, gray tie, shoes polished like new. His skin was pale, his eyes completely black, no whites at all. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice calm, almost polite. "I've been waiting a long time." Laura screamed, grabbed the handle, but the doors wouldn't open. The man leaned closer, his cold breath frosting the glass. "Don't be afraid. The road's been waiting for you too." Her phone, dead minutes ago, suddenly lit up on its own. The map was back, but different. It showed a single red dot moving toward a label that read, "Your final destination." The car engine roared to life by itself. The steering wheel twisted violently. Laura tried to brake, but the pedal was locked. The car began to accelerate faster and faster. The man smiled. "I told you, I only needed one more ride." The headlights illuminated the edge of a cliff. Laura screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the wind as the car plunged into the darkness. Days later, rescuers found the wreckage tangled in the trees far below. The driver's seat was empty. No blood. No body. The phone was still on the dashboard, the rideshare app open, showing the same red dot, still moving. Since then, late at night, some users have reported a strange notification. Your driver is nearby. No matter where they are, when they open the app, it shows her car, heading straight toward them. 3 different roads. 3 travelers who never should have met what they did. A taxi driver who picked up a ghost soaked in rain. A trucker who met a creature born from asphalt and gasoline. A rideshare driver who followed a lost signal into the dark. You might tell yourself these are only stories, that there's always a logical explanation, that what happens on the road stays there. But next time you drive alone and your headlights catch a figure by the roadside, don't stop. Don't slow down. Because sometimes it's not the living who wave for a ride. And if your next trip says no destination, it's already too late. If you've made it to the end, you're probably not alone anymore. Subscribe, if you dare, because the next road is already waiting for you.